Hello everyone and welcome back to another part in this tutorial series, and today we'll continue to paint some of the textures. In fact, I decided to only show you one part for the texture painting process, and I will be doing the belt and this part in the back, simply for the reason that I think it will take a bit too much time and be too much of the same. I'll be repeating the same strokes over and over until I sort of hit the right one. It's very, very tedious and time-consuming process, so I think it will be better if I show it once and then we'll just look at the time-lapse or something. Anyway, so I looked up a couple of things, and the first thing I found out is that a Blender apparently doesn't have a feature where you can have a brush size relative to the world instead of just a fixed size for the view. I may be wrong about this, but at least when I looked it up, this is the answer that I got. So one of the things is that we have to be very careful about our brush size, because depending on how much we're zoomed in, the thickness will be completely different. One more thing that I want to do is I think we will go for a larger image size. I don't think we can resize it, can we? Resize we actually can. 4096 by 4096 is what we'll use, just to be on a safe side. It's always easier to reduce the size, and I would rather have some sharp textures for this. We'll save this as and outline, and I'm wondering if we could go for the grayscale image instead, and reduced some size, but I would be sad if that sort of destroys anything for us. Let's just save it like this for a second, and I'll just see if, yeah, it's well compressed. It's okay. It's not a big issue. So I think with our black and white lines, we're not going to run into any issues with file size. So yeah, that's going to be our setup. We should see now that our lines are a lot sharper. That will help us make it look good. And finally, a few more things that you might want to look at. What was I doing? I just adjusted some of these ramps a little bit, and I changed the angle of this one so that the rim is now on the left side and the light is coming from the right, sort of like this, if this is the camera angle. You might notice, by the way, that as you zoom out you get some seams, like some very thin black lines on the seams. This is something that we'll have to do in a post-process. Oh, I closed it already, but basically we need to dilute our textures so that the color sort of extends beyond the UV space. And I found a way of doing this in Photoshop. There's unfortunately again no feature in Blender that allows you to do that, I believe at least. So this is something we'll take care of at the very end when our painting is done. So for now, let's just try to ignore it. If we're zoomed in enough, we won't see it anyway. And finally, as for brush settings, well, we're just going to work with the standard brush, a white color. Here are the settings. Only here on the stroke you might want to set the spacing to 1, and I would suggest to play around with this a little bit. It can stabilize your stroke and sort of make sure that you just draw better lines, but unfortunately with that it also becomes, oh, we have to draw here. Also it becomes more difficult to draw corners, so if you want to have a sharp corner you have to go back and start to paint from that very spot. But at least if you draw curves, it now gives you a lot smoother curves. It's a bit difficult to you know, control, but it may as well help you draw clean lines. So with that all out of the way, I think it's time for us to get started, and the first line that I want to draw is probably going to be the belt. Let's see now how challenging this is going to be. I have a feeling that it's going to be not too easy. And the first thing we can do actually to help ourselves is to change this color ramp. We'll set it back to ease, and I'll just give it the whole color spectrum so that we really have a little bit of a, you know, that we can see actually the detail. This now will help us to do our stroke. By the way, is this not mirrored? Oh, this part is one of the ones that we didn't mirror. Alright, and I have to now work on my tablet, so I need to change a couple of things on my desk. Sorry for the noise. Alright, so time to get started. Yeah, make sure also that you're here always in your tool settings on the right material and on the right texture. You don't want to mistakenly draw on the wrong piece. So with that all set, let's hit F to adjust our brush size and get started. Now, I still haven't decided on a good thickness, but I think this looks very good. So I'll try to work with this specific thickness. And this is what I meant with it's going to be a tedious and repetitive process. I have a feeling that I'll be undoing almost every single stroke, try to repaint it, see if it looks good in that particular spot, go back, go forth, and so on. Yeah, it's just going to take a lot of time, and don't feel bad if it takes you many attempts to get the right stroke. Of course you can take a different approach, paint multiple times. You can go and pick do we have an eraser? Well, I guess you just have to take a black color to erase here. Then you go in and sort of can clean up your line like this. So you don't have to always hit it on the first try, but if you get it wrong, sort of sculpt your line away again by using the black color, going in and sort of adjusting it. Yeah, and see, I'm already out of words. Like, this is going to be all I will do for the next couple of hours. And if the line is too thin, we need to zoom in a bit, get the right angle. Maybe I'll just do a few strokes and clean it up altogether a bit later. Also, we need to be careful. Yeah, one thing we can do, by the way, is I'm pretty sure we can isolate this object so that we can at least see what we're doing. And yeah, I really don't like how we're not really on that right line, in line with the normal map. Our normal map seems to be somewhere around here. You can adjust your material settings as well. You don't have to be too hesitant about that. Oh right, our sunlight is hidden now. Well, I think that was a good place to start. Let's see, are there any other ways how we can affect the lighting here? Could probably choose a different different background. Maybe that helps bring out more contrast. Doesn't really help, does it? Try to rotate it to get the best contrast out of it. Well, yeah, it's just going to be a bit of a fight. I think that's going to be the best. Yeah, here we go. There's not really a right or wrong here, so do anything that helps you see what you need to see. There we go. You can see I'm already a lot thicker than I was in the beginning. So I have a feeling that this is going to be a very stressful process. I could go in here and draw the line here. This would help us to keep it consistent. But it definitely will require some experimentation. Can clean it up here as well. That might be easier. Let's try to do the second line in this view instead. But we have to be careful not to do it on the transition between the UV seams, because there it won't yeah, you would end up seeing a seam if we paint over that. So we need to do that in the 3D view. So once again, I think this is just another argument why sometimes it is better to give up on Blender and to use some more specialized tools that are really good for those specific situations. Substance Painter is, in my opinion, a very good one. Yeah, I definitely will also recognize how good Blender is for everyone, because it's a free tool available to anyone. Anyone can do 3D with it. But maybe you need something a bit better for production. Why am I working on such a small screen? This is really about 10 centimeters or so for me on the screen in this window. Yeah, okay, so it's probably very obvious why I'm going to do this in a time lapse, but let's just do the spelt because I also want to show you how to fill in the colors. Still very rough, but we could call it good enough for now, as it is just a demonstration anyway. And I would like to do one more part in the back, if we can, if time allows for that. Here I'd like to try to see how this will end up looking if we do like a circle around these, and we'll be needing sort of an outline here as well. This part looks a lot nicer, I feel. Let's see for a second on here, maybe this is easier to paint over here. This is going to be tough. Can already tell. I didn't think it would be that difficult, but the tools aren't really helping us here. Ideally, the brush size would adjust automatically to the object space and stuff like that, but these are just features that aren't really available to us here. Yeah, and we should have probably painted outside of this part across this seam so that we can see this line also from other angles. Ideally, I don't want to see these sort of artifacts, but I think this is a kind of unavoidable. Maybe we need to just reduce the thickness of the mesh that goes around after all. If this could connect nicely there, that would be ideal, but it's always going to show a little bit, so I wouldn't try to force that. Maybe we'll end up going with a little bit of a thicker line after all, because that will save us some time, and it will also reduce some artifacts, but then on the other hand it will be a bit more difficult to paint it, because there are some details and we need to simplify it all. Anyway, I'm going to try it like this. Now I think my stabilization is a bit too strong. It prevents me sort of from drawing these finer features, so I'm going to reduce that for a moment. And there we go. Alright, it's very rough. I'm sorry for this maybe not all that great demonstration, but this is basically what I'll be doing for the next hours. I'll have to play around a lot with the thickness. This is now definitely too thick, so you know, I would go back in here, take a black color, and sculpt away here again. Do this on all of them until we get something that looks good. And feel free to be creative with this, try to maybe figure out if there's a better way of doing this. Definitely go for that. If you have maybe some access to some other tools that would do this better. I mean, you can see here that the result that we need is just a black and white texture. So any way of doing that will be good. Alright then. Now next step would be to do the color, the fill color, and for that all we need to really do is switch here to the color, switch here to the color so that we can see it. Then we'll pick the right color, which will be this here, and we can just work on that now. So really not too difficult to switch around here. I'll turn off stroke stabilization so that I can just go and paint that easily. And all we need to do is now fill that area. Shouldn't be too difficult. You can also do things like enter edit mode. Let's just turn this back on. We can also make a selection here. Control click is going to be your friend in this case. Since we don't have clean loops anymore, we need to yeah, be smart about the way we select. And I kind of wanted to have this all selected as well. Maybe we'll just select it like this, Alt H. So now we have this all selected, and now we could go in here, mask this area, and just fill it with one color, which isn't this color. It should be this color. There you go. Now we even have a very sharp texture below the line. And similar thing for the belt, that would also work like this. I'm just going to select these loops that go around here. Select the bottom one as well, although it doesn't really belong to it, does it? Maybe we'll just go with this one. Careful not to select any wrong parts. One step at a time. We can hide that, select the inner part, unhide this. Now we can fill this one more time with some sort of brown. I believe this will do for now. It's the hair color, but why not? Oh, we missed a part apparently here. Let's just do that separately. Here we go. And we'll use our brush to deselect that, to sort of clean up all the artifacts there. I really feel like I want to complain, but it's okay. That point does not want to go away. Here it is. There we go. So yeah, then we'll just need to fill in the rest to sort of line up with those lines. So, as I said, it's a bit of a tedious process, but I'll just take my time with this, hopefully record this as a time lapse, and get back to you when I'm done. The potential of this method is really good though, so you should totally be able to get some good results. Yeah, but you'll have to play around with that. I might also look a little bit into some different techniques. I have a little bit of an idea how we could maybe use meshes to do these lines instead. That could potentially result in cleaner everything, but it's a bit of a tricky thing to do. Not all that straightforward, so texture would definitely be easier. So this way would get in our detail. Alright, I'll call it the end of this video here. We'll have to put these settings back. You can do a 3 color gradient as well if you're into that sort of stuff. Alright. And in the next part, or maybe after this, I'll add a little bit of a time lapse where you can see me paint. Alright, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.